What's up, everybody? My name is Nick, joined again by my co-host Matt, and welcome to For Bettor Or Worse. Got another episode for you today. We're going to knock out some MLB, talk about the recap overall in the week, and maybe some NFL, maybe? No?
Maybe.
It's preseason, honestly. It's just a big old tease. Big old tease. Get one thing out of the way. I've been drinking, so it should be interesting. We'll see how it goes. It's late Sunday night, and I'm ready to go to bed. I'm always going to be over. I'm ready to go to bed. I'm so ready for sleep. But there are some things on tomorrow's slate I want to talk about that are coming up that kind of popped off the page that we'll get into. So first up, Marlins at Padres. This one popped off. Joe Musgrove versus big old Sandy. The over-under right now is at 6.5. Padres obviously have a great lineup. They screwed me the other night, of course, because that's what they do when they're heavy favorites. And they were 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position and left 12 on base. 12.
Jeez.
They lost 4-3 to that Buster Posey rule. So that's just it's a brutal take overall. But Joe Musgrove back on the mound. Obviously, he's been an absolute stud this year. Just studly. 2.91 ERA, 1.02 whip. He's just doing well. He's pitching deep into games. He did have a blow-up game recently versus Colorado. That was 2 games ago, and one versus the Mets. But he always seems to either have like shutout or he gives up 4 to 5 runs. That's kind of what I'm seeing. But he's facing the Marlins because. Good for news for him because they are absolutely atrocious on offense. I still don't think they've gotten over 4 runs, and it's probably like 13 or 14 games, unless they did yesterday. I can't remember about yesterday because I know they lost again today.
No, I don't. They lost 6-2 and 5-2 yesterday.
Yeah, so it's been about 14 games, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a game or 2 off there, where they've yet to score over 3 runs. They've hit 3 runs. That's about their high. So. But this is one of their better opportunities versus Sandy, who's been an absolute stud. He's 10-5 on the season, 2.01 ERA with a 0.95 whip. He did have a bad game versus the Phillies, and again, another bad game versus the Mets. But the Mets lineup is pretty nasty right now after the deadline trades. Thoughts on this game? I'm kind of leaning under. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know. It's a weird one. I'm not worried about the Marlins. I'm worried about the Padres. Let's put it that way. But at the same time, I'm not worried about the Padres because I don't know. They're just pathetic. So basically, do I think the Padres are going to score 4.5, 5 runs? If we look at, previous history. Or I just want to wait and see what that team total comes out to be on the Marlins side. I mean, if I'm going to choose anything on this game, other than possibly minus 132 for the Padres, I mean, I just, there's no way. The Marlins suck. They just suck. Offensively, they're just awful. Their team total right now is at 3, so that's something to possibly look at. It is juiced up at minus 128. I feel like you might as well just take the money line at that point, but that's a game I'm going to continue to look at throughout the day tomorrow, really. But what are your thoughts on the game? Any opinion whatsoever?
No, you definitely have to bet the Padres. That number doesn't make sense. Any game that's Padres Marlins, I don't care if Sandy's pitching or not. It's got to be at least minus 150 because you're just getting a much better offensive team. Unless you're playing some sort of F5 scenario with like a plus 0.5 for the Marlins, I don't see how you expect them to compete with the Padres. If they score 2 runs early, there's no way they lose that game, in my opinion. So, I mean, the Nerfies minus 180 on DraftKings. Both team totals first 5 are over 1.5 as well. So,
you know what I'm going to do, and I think if I truly, I mean, I'm not that worried about money line. The 6.5 is a little bit of a weird number. Maybe I go and do a little same game parlay, take the money line, and or the plus 1.5 and add to 7.5, 8.5, and kind of see what that comes out to be.
Yeah.
Because I do like the under to an extent, but it's a little concerning as far as the Padres. They obviously have the firepower to put up one good inning and just screw the whole thing over, especially at a 6.5 number that you have to be tight because the Marlins are gonna they are scoring some runs. It's just not a lot. So maybe like a money line and a plus 8.5 and get it around even.
You could do a Padres and under 8.5 on MGM for plus 165.
So I'll take that. Go ahead and open an MGM account and knock that out.
Yeah, Padres and under 6.5 is plus 270, which is pretty nuts. And they have the Padres at minus 140, juiced over 6.5.
Okay, so this is really weird. Okay, so Padres and under 11.5 is minus 102. That's like on the set line for FanDuel. Why is their line? They're just messed up.
You're basically getting the money line for minus 102 because there's no way there's going to be 11 runs in that game.
12 runs, but yeah.
12, yeah.
That's so weird. Usually, they're usually on the original line, but for the over-under, and then they combine it with the money line or obviously the run line, the money line parlays. But the one they have advertised is under 11.5, over an 11.5. That's so weird. Nonetheless, that's kind of the way I'm leaning. Matt, obviously, you say money line as well. They hurt me. They hurt me so bad. Why do they do these things to me, Matthew? Why do they try to hurt me?
I don't know.
But I know there's – go ahead. Talk about the thing. Just go. Go ahead.
The game I want to talk to you guys about, plot twist, it's the Mets game, of course. It's kind of a boring slate, in my opinion, in general. So it is a Monday, too. But the interesting thing about this game is the Mets did just take 4 out of 5 against the Braves before that Philly series. And the Braves fans and the Braves team were like, oh, it's only August, doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Said that, of course, after they lost the games, not going into it. I happen to agree. It's not really, doesn't change anything World Series bound. It did basically make the Braves have to be a wild card team because there's no way they really catch the Mets, in my opinion, unless something drastic happens, like injury-wise, knock on wood. But there is an interesting pitcher on the mound, and that is it's Carlos Carrasco, who's not that interesting, versus Spencer Strider, who is the interesting guy today. The rookie throws some nasty stuff. He's great. He throws some filthy pitches, but he also throws some shade. And that's what he did against the Mets after he got blown up for 2.2 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, did strike out 5, but really got torched, didn't even finish the 3rd inning. Here's the clip of Spencer Strider saying the Mets offense is lucky.
A lot of weird hits. They seem to be having a lot of luck right now offensively, so that's great. It's August. See what things are like in October.
And we're back. See, tell me if that's luck. 2.2 innings. Listen, the thing about the Mets is that they put the ball in play. They don't strike out a lot, whereas the Braves, they live off some big shots. When you put the ball in play, when you're younger, when you play T-ball, when you play Little League, they say put the ball in play, good things will happen. The fact of the matter is this Mets team puts the ball in play. You're going to get luckier than you would striking out 15 times like the Braves do every game. That's the way they play baseball. So don't knock a small ball team or a team that protects the plate and doesn't swing for the fences every at bat for getting lucky by putting the ball in play. That's their play style versus your play style. You got rocked, you lost, you're a good rookie, but enough with the excuses. I'm sorry, Braves fans. He's a great pitcher. He probably will be good for a long time, but this Mets team is good, and they're coming off a nice win in Philly. where they took 2 out of 3 games and the Phillies only scored 1 run the entire series. So take that as you will. That's basically the underlying storyline. If you're a WWE storyline or you live for the baseball, basketball storyline play, the Braves are pissed, but the Mets are also pissed because the Mets gave Spencer Strider gave the Mets locker room bulletin board material where you put down on the board, hey, they get lucky, blah, blah, blah. They're going to try to prove that it wasn't lucky. They're going to try to ring him up 4 or 5 runs before he gets taken out. The only problem is both teams have motivation. So this is getting more towards September. It should be a great game. I don't think I'll play this game as a whole. If I was to play a side, I'd probably play the Mets first 5 team total. That's only because it's a low total and they're going to want to come out and get after him. And it's only 1.5. They just faced a ton of good pitching in Philly. They didn't really score a lot. They finally broke it out yesterday, meaning Sunday. And I think that over 1.5 is good, but I think the Braves can hit Carrasco as well. So I'm not sure if I like the over as a whole, but I think the Mets team total, especially with Strider just facing him so soon, is probably something pretty good to look at.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I think of with these kind of like divisional games is like under. I kind of feel like playoff baseball is starting to happen. You saw it in these Phillies series. It went under every game. It's just both team wants to win. It's important for the standings, and they're going to play tight games. Unless you're the Phillies who just make stupid mistakes. Like God, they looked awful today. But yeah, that should be definitely an interesting game. I love watching Strider pitch. He's got some nasty stuff, like you said. And Carrasco is such a wild. Last year he was a real wild card. He's a lot more consistent this year.
Yeah.
Should be a good game for sure, especially with those offenses. But one game I did want to talk about, it's obviously going to be – well, let's talk about that last because that's one of my favorite plays for tomorrow. But first, the Mariners versus the Angels. It is Ohtani versus Castillo. 2 great pitchers. I think this is going to be another low-scoring game overall. You obviously saw what Castillo could do versus the Yankees. He pitched versus them twice. He went 8 innings the last game, basically a shutout, and then 6 2/3 versus the Yankees the game before, which is pretty impressive, honestly, to just pitch versus that team and then come back and do even better. Usually that goes advantage hitters, but I really like what he's done this year overall, and he's going against the Angels, and the Angels offensively are still just atrocious. Strikeouts is something that I might look at. I'll see his line and kind of see the matchup overall. But to give you some stats as far as that's concerned, just as far as recent games, he had 7 versus the Yankees, 8 versus the Yankees, 8 versus the Marlins, 5 versus the Yankees, 11 versus the Rays, 11 versus the Braves, 11 versus Chicago. And those are all this. And then 6 versus the Braves, excuse me. So really up there as far as strikeouts recently overall, and pretty consistent. I mean, 1, 2, 3, the lowest game being 6. Everything else, there was 7, 8, 8, 8, 11, 11. I mean, that's really not bad. Yeah. So, but I really think that's going to be a low-scoring game overall. Obviously, Ohtani is an absolute stud per usual. He hasn't been facing like the most explosive of offenses. A's twice, Rangers, Braves, and then Houston. So couple good teams overall, but he got shelled versus the Braves. I'm really leaning under here as well at 6.5. I might get fancy and look at some stuff as well, but I really, between the Angels offense and then Ohtani, I think it's going to, and then obviously, 2 teams fighting for position. I think this is going to be a great matchup and a fun one to watch if you like pitchers duels.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, Ohtani really has got nothing else to play for this year. He's probably looking pretty forward to just being on the mound, in my opinion. It should be an interesting game. I hate Angels games. Some games, they really just creep up on you and they end up taking them. It really pisses me off. I know a lot of people get really mad as well. They should be in full on tank mode right now. Probably should have traded Ohtani, but it is what it is. the Mariners are trying to win games. They're going to take it as, every game matters. So everyone's going to be on a short leash. If they get a lead, they're probably going to try to sit on it, and just try to figure things out. That's the way they're going to play down this whole stretch. The Angels really don't score a lot of runs. And maybe Ohtani's not as focused at the plate if he's on the mound. So, maybe he takes a step back too. I think the under is a good look overall for sure.
Yeah. So there's one more game that the slate overall was pretty nasty. I don't know if you can agree with me on that. I just not a fan whatsoever. But this game, as of right now, stuck out the most, and that would be Orioles versus the Blue Jays. Got some pitchers that just faced each other. Kyle Bradish is just awful. He's not a good pitcher. He's 1-4 on the year with a 6.42 ERA, 1.62 WHIP. He just faced the Blue Jays, and he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. That's pretty much a good start for him. He has been doing better as of recently. He did have an injury, and I think that equated to some of his, lackluster performances towards the beginning of the season. But I also just don't think he's very good. But since he's been back, he gave up 3 versus the Blue Jays, 1 versus the Rangers, and 2 versus the Reds. Before that, he got shellacked often.
Yeah.
He consistently walks people in the last 2 games. It's 2 and 3. Not a big strikeout guy, but obviously he's going against the Blue Jays, who just have firepower everywhere in that lineup. And then you have Kikuchi, who has been historically bad this year. He's had some good spots recently, but just overall not good. 4-6 on the year, 5.13 ERA, WHIP of 1.49. He just faced them and lost 7-4 with giving up 5 runs in 5 innings and walking 3 people. That's been part of his problem. He has these blow-up games where I can roll down. He had 5 walks versus the A's, 4 walks earlier versus Baltimore. He's had these giant, just uncontrollable games where he just walks a bunch of people, because I was looking at that earlier in the year. But he's faced the Orioles twice this year. He's given up 5 and 4, lost both games. So that's something to look at as possibly maybe Orioles money line. That team is hot as can be. It's plus 140 right now. But the real thing I like is the over 9. Kyle Bradish has faced them twice as well. He gave up 3 runs and then 5 runs earlier in the year. Both games they played versus each other, versus the respective teams, have gone over 9. And I don't see that changing. Both offenses are humming right now. Orioles are really hot, and then Blue Jays can obviously put up runs at will if they just get it together a little bit. But this is the perfect time to put over 9. I think over 9 is a good, comfortable number. I'm considering doing 2 units on it. So right now I'll do 1, and if I post something different, I'll obviously try to let everybody know. But I really feel confident in that 9 number. What are your thoughts on that? I mean,
Yeah, anytime you get a game where these guys just played each other and seem to get figured out, like you said, both games, it was 11-1 the first game that Kyle Bradish pitched against the Blue Jays. They lost 11-1. He gave up 5 runs, 4.1 innings. Then it was another one. They won 6-5. Either way, 11 runs, gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. Kikuchi, when he pitched, it was give up 3 home runs, 5 earned runs. That was on the 8th. That was 6-7 days ago. They lost 7-4. That's 11 runs. The other one was the 6-5 game. 4 innings, 4 earned runs. So I think everything you said is right. When you just face someone too, you're not going to throw anything different. If anything, the hitters can make the more adjustments than the pitchers can. Just the way I always see it. That's why you tend to see less strikeouts, and people tend to see what you're going to throw. If you threw that same pitch, that's your go-to pitch, like a slider away, he's going to anticipate a slider away this time. Maybe you change it, but he at least knows what's coming. You can't really throw anything surprising there. So I like that. I think a first 5 over is good as well. Maybe even both teams' first 5 team totals. You can really pick anything you want. I think that's a great play. I was looking at that before, but hey, all yours. You take it. That was a great snipe. First 5 is probably where I would lean in general, but both good looks nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I want to dive in a little bit more as far as bullpen rankings. I didn't even look at that just because I got so excited when I saw them facing each other again, and obviously with the Orioles being hot right now, that plays into my decision. The plus 140, I've been predicting some of these Oriole wins, and I've just been on the fence. Like, it doesn't make sense, but that's baseball sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. You're just a hotter team overall, and I just keep pussing out. So we'll see about
this game. This game, I don't know if you know how close the standings are. The Rays are 1.5 games above the Orioles, so the Orioles are 1.5 games out of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The games matter. They're gonna. I mean, hey, they're cruising. They're 4 games above 500, which is nothing too crazy. But for the Orioles, that's like being 20 games above 500.
Yeah, especially how they started at the beginning of the year. I know a lot of people kind of put futures on them before the All-Star break because they had plus 1,400 and so on and so forth, and they've continued to roll. Not a huge futures guy, but great call there. I mean, that's awesome, and I love them. I love watching them play. They got a lot of young talent overall, so it's exciting. Their pitchers aren't the best, but they'll make it. They're
work. Probably not going to win the World Series, but if they make the playoffs, you got to root for them.
Their bullpen's, I think, ranked 3rd.
Their bullpen's good, which doesn't make any sense. I thought Jorge Lopez sucked, but apparently he's really good now. So,
yeah, they rank 3rd with a 3.09 ERA. That's awesome, especially for a team of that salary, and talent. On paper,
I'm going to look at one more game that I wasn't really – I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do here, and I think I'm going to target – it's the Phillies at the Reds, Noah Syndergaard and Mike Minor. I used to love Mike Minor, but I think Mike Minor, that last name now stands for what league he should be playing in because he's been atrocious.
He's bad.
So Mr. Mike Minor Leagues has been absolutely, just dreadful. I used to love him. He used to be in the mix of a sneaky Cy Young pick a couple years ago. Not anymore. He's 1-9, 6.24 ERA. He's in Cincinnati, just dying. Philly, and he's got a Philly team that's fresh off a tough Mets series loss, but hard fought. I mean, they showed they'll be tough outs, especially if they get Bryce Harper back. That's not a bad team. They could throw 3 studs on the mound and make any series, interesting. They're still in that 3rd wild card spot. They're a game and a half over the Brewers right now. They know they need to clean house on teams like the Reds in order to stay in the mix. So, you have Syndergaard, who I hate right now. I think I threw out his bobblehead that I used to have on the Mets. Done with him. But, with scoring 1 run over the 3-game series, I don't know why Schwarber didn't play even as a DH. He pinch hit the 2nd game and it didn't play any of the games. Maybe he's back for this series against the lefty, maybe. But either way, I had it pulled up right here. Let me try and find this. So Noah Syndergaard pitches well against bad competition, which is basically kind of what you want as long as he does well. They're not going to start him in a playoff series probably, but he's here to fill in those schedule spots where they need to win games like today. And Mike Minor's given up 4 runs to the Mets in 5 innings, 3 runs in 5 innings to the Marlins on August 3rd. Before that, 2 runs to the Orioles, 5 runs to the Cardinals. The list goes on. Even earlier on, it was even worse. So I'm going to look at probably a team total first 5 of the Phillies over 2.5. They just explode.
Yeah.
Once you face Scherzer, DeGrom, and Bassett, every other pitcher seems so much easier, especially when he's Mike Minor. So that's probably what I'm leaning so far. Might finalize it later, but I'm looking at everything Phillies, mainly a team total. How about you?
A couple things to add. One thing with Minor is his walk. I mean, he's got 3-3-4, 3-4-3-2, and that's in the last 6 games. So he's consistently walking over 2, and mainly in the 3s every game. That's the bases loaded. Basically, you're giving someone. throughout the game. Team total is probably so the regular line set at 5.5, 2.5 probably the safer play. But if you only have the full option, it's not the worst thing because the Reds do have the worst bullpen in all of baseball with a 4.98 ERA. So something to think about there. If you're stuck and you're just concerned about taking the full one, feel a little bit easier on that end. And then maybe -1.5. I'm not a huge run line fan, but I just gotta think the Phillies come out swinging. They're trying to make a point. They're trying to get back on track, especially offensively after this showing versus the Mets. And I'm with you there. This is the game to do it. Like, this is the game where you put out 8 to 10 runs. It's.
I also forgot to add that the Phillies are top 10 in batting average and OPS versus lefties. Like, this is just a hungry Phillies team with a great matchup. I mean, they're gonna be ready to rake.
Yeah, as they should. I mean, they need to. Because they dropped a bunch of games recently. So got to get back on track. But, I mean, I think that covers it for this slate. Not the most exciting one, but there are some good matchups to look at on, and we'll have some plays throughout the day that we'll be posting. I'll probably have an article coming out as well. Matt, I know you're focusing on some NFL futures. There we go. NFL futures. So look out for that as well. But thanks again for joining us, Matt. If you're good, I'm good.
Yeah, this is that's basically my NFC West prediction will be getting sent out tomorrow or today when you're watching this Monday. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, subscribe to the YouTube most importantly. And thank you for the support, and let's cash this week.
Appreciate you.
Peace.